The black sedan had been parked across the street for 3 days straight. Maya noticed it the first morning when she took Ethan to the park, then again that afternoon when they returned from the grocery store, and now, as she stood at the kitchen window washing dishes, she could see it idling beneath the streetlight with its engine running and windows tinted dark enough to hide whoever was inside. Her hands trembled as she set down the plate she'd been scrubbing. She knew that car. Or rather, she knew what it meant. Someone had found her. Maya dried her hands on a kitchen towel and forced herself to breathe slowly, evenly, the way her therapist had taught her during those long months in prison. She'd been out for 6 months now, 6 months of rebuilding a life from nothing, 6 months of job applications that went nowhere the moment employers saw her record, 6 months of sleeping in a halfway house and wondering if she'd ever be anything more than her mistakes. And then Marcus Chun had hired her. A billionaire tech entrepreneur with a 7-year-old son who hadn't spoken in 2 years, not since the night his mother died in what police had called a home invasion gone wrong. Marcus had interviewed 23 nannies before Maya walked into his office, her prison record printed neatly on the resume she'd been told to never show anyone. But she'd shown him anyway, because she was tired of lying and tired of being turned away for lies she never got the chance to tell. "Why should I trust you with my son?" Marcus had asked, his dark eyes sharp and assessing behind designer glasses. "Because no one else will give me a chance," Maya had answered honestly. "Which means I won't waste yours." He'd hired her on the spot. That was 3 weeks ago, and in those 3 weeks, Ethan had started making eye contact with her. He'd smiled twice. Yesterday, while they were reading together, he'd whispered a single word, "more," so softly she'd almost thought she imagined it. But she hadn't. The boy was starting to heal, starting to trust, starting to come back to the world he'd retreated from when trauma had stolen his voice. And now someone from Maya's past was sitting outside the house in a black sedan, and everything she'd worked so hard to build was about to crumble. "Maya." She spun around to find Marcus standing in the doorway, his tie loosened and his shirt sleeves rolled up after a long day of meetings. He was watching her with that same assessing expression he'd worn during her interview, like he could see straight through whatever walls she tried to build. "Is something wrong?" he asked. Maya wanted to lie. She wanted to say everything was fine, that she was just tired, that the shadows under her eyes were from staying up too late reading and not from lying awake every night wondering when her past would catch up with her. But Marcus had given her a chance when no one else would, and she owed him the truth. "There's a car outside," she said quietly. "It's been there for 3 days." Marcus moved to the window and looked out, his jaw tightening when he saw the sedan. "You think someone's watching the house?" "I know they are," Maya said. "And I think they're watching because of me." Marcus turned to face her fully, his expression unreadable. "Explain." Maya felt her throat close up. This was it. The moment she'd been dreading since he'd hired her. The moment when he'd realized what a mistake he'd made bringing an ex-convict into his home, into his son's life, into the fragile healing process they'd both been working so hard to protect. "When I was sent to prison," Maya began, her voice barely above a whisper, "it wasn't for something I did. It was for something my brother did. He got involved with the wrong people, people who run illegal gambling operations and loan sharking and worse. When they came after him, when they threatened to kill him if he didn't pay back money he'd borrowed, I took the fall for him. I confessed to crimes I didn't commit so he could walk away clean." Marcus was silent, his dark eyes locked on her face. Maya couldn't read his expression, couldn't tell if he was angry or disappointed or already planning how to fire her without causing a scene. "My brother promised me he'd stay clean," Maya continued, fighting to keep her voice steady. "He promised he'd get out of that life, get a legitimate job, stay away from those people. But if that car is here, if they've found me, then something's gone wrong. Either my brother's back in trouble, or they've decided I know too much and they want to make sure I stay quiet." "Why didn't you tell me this before?" Marcus asked, his voice carefully controlled. "Because no one wants to hire someone whose past might follow them," Maya said, tears burning behind her eyes. "I thought I had time. I thought I could keep my head down, do my job, help Ethan, and they'd never find me. I was wrong." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, and Maya braced herself for the inevitable. He'd tell her to pack her things. He'd call the police. He'd make sure she never worked with children again. And she'd deserve all of it, because she'd brought danger to his doorstep, to his son's home, to the one safe place Ethan had left in the world. "I need to make some calls," Marcus said finally. Stay away from the windows. Don't answer the door. And don't leave the house until I figure out what's going on. Maya blinked in surprise. You're not firing me? Marcus's expression softened slightly, just for a moment, before the walls went back up. Ethan spoke his first word in 2 years yesterday. You think I'm going to let that progress stop because of a car outside? We'll handle this together. But I need you to be completely honest with me from now on. No more secrets. Maya nodded, relief flooding through her so intensely she had to grip the counter to stay upright. No more secrets. I promise. Marcus pulled out his phone and stepped into the hallway, his voice low and urgent as he made calls to what Maya assumed was his security team. She stayed in the kitchen, watching the black sedan through the window, wondering who was inside and what they wanted and how long she had before everything fell apart. Upstairs, she heard Ethan moving around in his room, the soft sound of toys being rearranged and picture books being flipped through. The boy had his own quiet world up there, a safe space he'd created after his mother's death, and Maya had been carefully, slowly, earning permission to enter that world. Yesterday's whispered more had been a breakthrough neither of them had expected, and Maya couldn't bear the thought of losing that fragile trust because of mistakes she'd made years ago trying to save her brother. Marcus returned 20 minutes later, his expression grim. I have a security team coming. They'll be here within the hour. In the meantime, I want you to tell me everything you know about the people your brother was involved with. Maya sat down at the kitchen table, her hands folded tightly in her lap. They call themselves the Jade Syndicate. They operate out of Chinatown, running gambling dens and protection rackets. The man in charge is named Vincent Chen. No relation to you. She added quickly when Marcus's eyebrows rose. He's ruthless. When my brother couldn't pay back the money he owed, Vincent threatened to kill him. Kill me. Kill anyone my brother cared about. That's why I confessed to the crimes. It was the only way to keep my brother alive. And you haven't heard from your brother since you got out? Marcus asked. Maya shook her head. He knows better than to contact me. If Vincent's people are watching me, any connection between us puts him at risk. Marcus was quiet, processing the information. Then he said something that made Maya's blood run cold. The night my wife died, the police said it was a random home invasion. But I never believed that. We have state-of-the-art security. The alarm was disabled from the inside. Whoever broke in knew our system, knew our schedules, knew exactly when to strike. Maya felt her stomach drop. You think the Jade Syndicate was involved? I think someone with professional knowledge of security systems was involved, Marcus said carefully. And I think it's too much of a coincidence that the same people who threatened you and your brother are now watching my house. Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed on the counter. She picked it up, her hands shaking, and saw a text from an unknown number. Her breath caught in her throat as she read the message. We need to talk. Your brother's life depends on it. Come alone. Tonight. The address below. Tell no one. Maya showed the phone to Marcus, watching his jaw tighten as he read the message. You're not going, he said flatly. If I don't, they'll kill him, Maya said, her voice breaking. He's my brother. I went to prison for him. I can't just let him die. And I can't let you walk into a trap, Marcus countered. We involve the police. We handle this the right way. The right way got me 3 years in prison for crimes I didn't commit. Maya shot back, surprising herself with the sharpness in her voice. The right way means my brother ends up dead while we're waiting for warrants and paperwork and bureaucracy. I have to go. Marcus grabbed her wrist, not roughly but firmly enough to stop her from moving toward the door. Maya, listen to me. If they wanted your brother dead, he'd already be dead. This is about something else. They want something from you, and we need to figure out what before you walk into whatever they're planning. Maya pulled her hand free, her eyes burning with tears and frustration. What could they possibly want from me? I'm nobody. I'm an ex-convict nanny who can barely keep her own life together. I don't have money. I don't have connections. I don't have anything they could use. You have access to this house, Marcus said quietly. You have access to my security system, my computers, my files. You have access to my son. The implication hit Maya like a physical blow. She stepped back, shaking her head. No, I would never. I know you wouldn't, Marcus interrupted, his voice gentler now. But they don't know that. If they think they can use you to get to me, to my company, to whatever they're really after, then your brother is just leverage. A way to force your hand. Maya sank into a chair, her mind racing. It made a horrible kind of sense. Marcus's tech company specialized in security systems and encryption software, the kind of technology that would be worth millions to the right buyer or devastating in the wrong hands. If the Jade Syndicate wanted access to that technology, using Maya as an unwitting insider would be the perfect strategy. What do I do? Maya whispered. Marcus pulled out his phone again. We set a trap. I have contacts in law enforcement, people I trust who can handle this quietly without putting your brother at risk. But I need you to trust me the way I've chosen to trust you. Maya looked up at him, at the determination in his dark eyes, at the protective set of his shoulders, and she realized something that terrified her almost as much as the text message on her phone. She was starting to care about this man, about his son, about the life they were building together in this house. And caring about people, letting them matter, meant they could be taken away. Okay, she said finally. What do we do? Over the next few hours, Marcus coordinated with a private security team he'd used before, people he trusted implicitly to handle sensitive situations without involving the media or causing public spectacles. They set up surveillance on the address from the text message, confirming it was a warehouse in an industrial area known for being controlled by the Jade Syndicate. Maya watched the preparations with growing dread, knowing that whatever happened tonight would determine not just her future and her brother's, but also whether Ethan would lose another person he'd started to trust and depend on. As evening fell, Ethan came downstairs looking for Maya. He found her in the living room, staring out the window at the black sedan that was still parked across the street. The boy approached slowly, cautiously, the way he did when he was trying to decide if it was safe to be vulnerable. Maya turned and saw him, and her heart broke a little at the worry in his young face. She knelt down to his level, opening her arms, and Ethan walked into them without hesitation. She held him close, breathing in the scent of his shampoo and the laundry detergent on his shirt, memorizing the weight of him in her arms in case this was the last time. I have to go somewhere tonight, Maya whispered against his hair. But I'm coming back. I promise. Ethan pulled back and looked at her with those serious dark eyes that were so much like his father's. He didn't speak, but he reached up and touched her cheek with his small hand, a gesture of comfort and trust that made Maya's eyes fill with tears. I love you, buddy, she whispered. No matter what happens, I want you to know that. Ethan nodded once, then wrapped his arms around her neck and held on tight. Maya looked up and saw Marcus watching them from the doorway, his expression unreadable, but his eyes suspiciously bright. When it was time to leave, Marcus insisted on going with her despite the text message's warning to come alone. They'll adjust, he said firmly. And if they don't, my security team will be close enough to intervene within seconds. You're not doing this alone. They drove to the warehouse in Marcus's car, the black sedan following at a distance. Maya's hands were shaking so badly, she had to clasp them together in her lap to keep Marcus from seeing. He reached over and covered her hands with one of his own, his grip warm and steady. Whatever happens in there, he said quietly, I need you to know that hiring you was the best decision I've made since my wife died. Ethan is healing because of you. I'm healing because of you. That matters more than whatever mistakes you think you've made. Maya couldn't speak past the lump in her throat, so she just squeezed his hand and tried to believe him. The warehouse was exactly as grim as Maya had imagined, all rusted metal and broken windows and the smell of old oil and decay. They parked outside the main entrance, and Marcus sent a signal to his security team positioned around the perimeter. Then they walked inside together. Vincent Chun was waiting for them in the center of the empty warehouse floor, flanked by 4 men who looked like they'd been hired more for their intimidation factor than their intelligence. Vincent himself was smaller than Maya remembered, dressed in an expensive suit that looked out of place in the dingy surroundings. Maya, Vincent said, his voice smooth and cold. I was told you'd come alone. Plans change, Marcus said, stepping slightly in front of Maya. What do you want? Vincent's eyes flickered to Marcus with interest. Marcus Chun, the tech billionaire. How convenient. This saves me the trouble of explaining the situation to your nanny here. Explain it to both of us, Marcus said evenly. Vincent smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made Maya's skin crawl. Your company has developed a new encryption protocol, one that would make certain financial transactions nearly impossible to trace. I want it. It's not for sale, Marcus said flatly. Everything's for sale, Vincent countered. The question is what price you're willing to pay. Or rather, What price you're willing to let others pay for you. One of Vincent's men stepped aside, and Maya saw her brother for the first time in 6 months. Danny was tied to a chair, his face bruised and swollen, his eyes wide with fear when he saw her. Danny, Maya breathed, starting forward, but Marcus caught her arm. Let him go, Marcus said to Vincent. Whatever you want from me, leave them out of it. Vincent laughed. But that's the beauty of this arrangement. Maya goes to prison for her brother. You care about Maya because she's helping your son. Your son witnessed something the night his mother died, something that might implicate certain business associates of mine. It's all connected, you see. One big, messy family. Maya felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Ethan saw who killed his mother? The boy hasn't spoken in 2 years, Vincent said with a shrug. But memories have a way of surfacing at inconvenient times. Better to make sure all loose ends are tied up, wouldn't you say? Marcus's voice was deadly quiet when he spoke. You're the one who ordered the break-in. You killed my wife. I ordered nothing, Vincent said smoothly. But yes, certain employees of mine may have acted overzealously in pursuit of your encryption technology. Your wife interrupted them. Unfortunate timing. And your son saw things children shouldn't see, which is why he stopped talking. Trauma, the doctors said. But what if he remembers? What if he starts talking again? That's a risk I can't afford. Maya's mind was racing, putting pieces together. The black sedan. The surveillance. The timing of everything. You've been watching the house because Ethan's starting to heal. You're afraid he'll remember and identify your people. Very good, Vincent said. Which brings us to tonight's negotiation. Marcus, you give me the encryption code. Maya, you forget everything you've heard here. Danny goes free. The boy stays quiet. Everyone wins. Except my wife is still dead, Marcus said, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. And you walk away. That's generally how these things work, Vincent agreed. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Marcus made a signal with his hand, and suddenly the warehouse was flooded with light and sound as his security team burst through every entrance. Vincent's men reached for weapons, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered within seconds. In the chaos, Maya ran to her brother and started untying him, her hands fumbling with the ropes. Danny was crying, apologizing over and over, saying he never meant for any of this to happen. He just needed money and made stupid choices, and he was so sorry. It's okay, Maya kept saying. Even though nothing was okay, nothing would ever be okay again. It's okay, we're getting you out. Vincent was being restrained by security, still shouting threats and promises that this wasn't over, that they'd all pay for this betrayal. But Maya barely heard him. All she could focus on was getting her brother free and making sure Marcus was safe and praying that Ethan was okay back at the house with the backup security Marcus had arranged. It took another hour for the police to arrive and take statements. Marcus had called in favors with people high enough up the chain that Vincent's connections couldn't protect him this time. The evidence of his involvement in the home invasion, in threatening Maya's brother, in attempting to steal proprietary technology, was overwhelming. By the time they got back to the house, it was nearly midnight. Maya was exhausted, emotionally drained, shaking from adrenaline come-down. Marcus pulled into the garage and turned off the engine, but neither of them moved. I should pack my things, Maya said quietly. I brought this into your home, into Ethan's life. You should fire me. You saved my son, Marcus said, not looking at her. You helped him start to heal when no one else could. And tonight you helped me get justice for my wife. Why would I fire you? Because I'm a complication, Maya said, her voice breaking. Because everywhere I go, trouble follows. Because Ethan deserves better than a nanny whose past puts him in danger. Marcus finally turned to look at her, and the expression on his face made Maya's breath catch. You didn't bring danger. You brought healing. Ethan hasn't smiled in 2 years before you. He hasn't spoken. He hasn't let anyone close enough to hurt him again. But he let you in. That's not nothing, Maya. That's everything. Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. I don't deserve that trust. Not his, not yours. Maybe not, Marcus said softly. But you have it anyway. So what are you going to do with it? Before Maya could answer, the door from the garage to the house opened, and Ethan appeared in his pajamas, his hair messy from sleep. He looked at Maya, then at his father, then back at Maya. And then he spoke, not just one word but a full sentence, clear and strong and absolutely certain. Don't leave us. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She looked at Marcus, who was staring at his son with wonder and tears streaming down his face. Then she looked back at Ethan, at this brave, healing boy who'd just used his voice for the first time in 2 years to ask her to stay. "Okay," Maya whispered. "Okay, I won't leave." Ethan crossed the garage and wrapped his arms around her waist, holding on tight. Maya held him back, looking over his head at Marcus, who was watching them with an expression that made her heart skip beats she didn't know it could skip. "Thank you," Marcus mouthed silently. Maya nodded, unable to speak past the emotions choking her. Because for the first time since she'd gone to prison, since she'd sacrificed everything for her brother, since she believed she'd never have a real life or real family or real belonging again, she felt like she'd come home. The black sedan was gone from across the street. Vincent and his associates were in custody. Danny was safe and entering a witness protection program. And Maya was standing in a garage with a broken man and his healing son, being offered a second chance she never thought she'd deserve. She was done running from her past. It was time to start building a future,